Update. Am I the a-hole for not answering any contact from work while on maternity leave? Original story. I work for my cousin. We're in the same field, but he owns a business. I started working for him 5 years ago and worked my way up to second or third in command at his fairly small company. I took 9 months of maternity leave, starting 2 weeks before my due date. My child is now 6 months old, meaning I'm currently in my 7th month of leave and go back to work in about 10 weeks. During the last 7 months, there's been a few crises at work. They called me and I fixed it. They should have not been doing this due to my maternity leave, but I didn't mention it because these were legitimate crises, and most of the time it was my cousin asking. However, because I'm entering the end of my leave, I want some time completely free of work to recharge before I have to dive back in. So, starting 2 weeks ago, I stopped answering my phone. At some point, it died, so I put it in a drawer and haven't plugged it in since. I have a landline for emergencies, a laptop to keep in touch with people, and a TV for entertainment, so I'm enjoying the break from the phone without issue. However, my cousin tried to call me about a week ago to get help with a client I handle. I had passed this client on to someone else, but something went wrong. My cousin called me to help, and because I didn't answer, I lost the client. I knew their contract was up for renewal, but I didn't think there would be any issues, so I saw no reason to check my phone. My cousin has told our family what happened. He's furious with me for not having my phone turned on when I knew that client would be up for renewal. He also says that as I had been answering my phone this whole time, I should have warned someone that I would be uncontactable. I've called the client and tried to fix it, but they've already signed on with someone else. My cousin, wanting to stop this from happening again as several more clients are up for renewal in the next couple months, has said I have to be available for the next couple months, so he can call me if there is another issue. I've said that I am on maternity leave, and therefore I should be left alone, so I will be leaving my phone off. And it's horrible of him to ask otherwise. My cousin said that I was being selfish and accused me of trying to screw him over, and my mother and aunt agree with him, saying if I don't answer my phone, there may not be company to come back to, and accused me of taking advantage of him because he's my cousin, as anyone else would have fired me over this. I responded that if my cousin can't run his own business without me, then he's incompetent and shouldn't be in charge of an omelet, let alone a company. They said that was uncalled for and told me to switch my mobile on now so he can call me if he needs, but I'm still refusing. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. OMG, the audacity of this man. Maternity leave means you take time off away from the job. In my country, once someone goes on maternity leave, they are uncontactable, and it's not an option to call them to ask them favors or even advice. Not the a-hole. Technically, that's how it works where we are too. But because he's my cousin, and because there were urgent issues, and because of my rank in the company, I felt obligated to help. Tell him, and everyone else, that you wouldn't be fired by anyone else for this, and that you could in fact sue them as it's illegal to cut into your leave. Besides that, you're not getting paid to do it. You have 10 weeks. Perhaps get a different job elsewhere? I feel like given I've had 9 months of maternity leave, by the time I go back, I need to stick around at least for a while. But that's assuming there's a company to go back to. I've been approached by competitors previously, but I'm not sure I could do that to my cousin. Everyone sucks here. He shouldn't have called you on maternity leave, but you had been answering the phone all through the previous 7 months. I don't think anyone can blame him for expecting you still be taking work calls at the end as well. You should have just made it clear at the beginning that you weren't going to take any work calls at all. That's what gets me. Opie just expected her cousin to know that she wouldn't be available when A, she didn't say anything to him, and B, she had already set a precedent of helping in a true emergency, which losing a client is. That's what makes it everyone sucks here. Everyone saying not the a-hole is right that her cousin shouldn't have bothered her, but she led him to think that she was happy to help. How the heck was he supposed to know that she was annoyed if she didn't say anything? Accused me of taking advantage of him because he's my cousin, as anyone else would have fired me over this. No, quite the opposite. When my wife was on maternity leave, the company made sure to shut down her email and turn off her access to the network. They were not allowed to contact her about work as that is against the law. You answering any questions during the leave was a favor to him. You can actually sue, but I assume you're not going to do that because it's family. Not AITA. They should learn the law. Not sure how long the FMLA extends to in your state, but the first couple of favors probably were breaking the law. Edit. Why do people think I went away with no plans in place? I had 6 months between figuring out I'd need to leave and going on leave. And I spent those 6 months assigning my clients to my coworkers, bringing people up to speed on said clients, and even holding meetings where I introduced the clients to their new handlers. I worked all of this out months ago. And now for the update. First off, thank you for the support, advice, and different perspectives you provided on my first post. Most of you agreed that I should not be working for my cousin. I mentioned on the last post that I'd had some offers from competitors, and while most paid about the same, they required a step down in my career. A few of you pointed out that if I can earn the same money after a step down, something isn't matching up. I did some research and came to the conclusion that I am being overworked and underpaid. I also triple-checked all of my notes for the last 7 months of leave and calculated that I had worked for 87 days out of just over 200. That was where I hit my limit. I then reached out to some of the people who had made offers previously and asked if they could give me a formal offer. 3 of them did. My favorite has fewer hours/responsibilities and more money, and they're fine waiting on me to finish up my planned maternity leave, 9 more weeks, before I start. I had a check-in day scheduled for later this month, but pulled it forward to Monday and asked my cousin and a few others to be there. I laid out all of the above. I was open to negotiating in a way that would let me stay in the company, but my cousin flew off the handle, and after that, we agreed that me staying was no longer an option. As I have 9 weeks of leave left, I will hand in my notice, meaning I will not come back to work, but I will be paid for this time, as well as compensated for the leave I lost. My cousin has blocked me and everything, but his mom has called my mom, who has been yelling at me for 2 days. I've had to block my own mother. My cousin is attempting to rally our entire family against me, but I have a nan on my side, so he is not succeeding. I am never working with family again. Congrats on the new opportunities coming to you soon. Everyone should remember, nobody enters into a work relationship with family anticipating it turning into messy crap. Nobody. So when you think to yourself, I can't see those horror stories happening to us, just remember, neither did the people in the horror stories. I would like to second this. I honestly never dreamed it would get as bad as it has. I didn't even plan on working for him long, only a summer. And now years later, here I am. Don't work with family. I am glad that it is all going to work out in the end on the job front. Less responsibility, more pay, and less hours are all huge wins. I'm sorry that your family's pulling this crap. Nonetheless, while you are taking care of a young baby, maybe block the lot and enjoy some peace and quiet for the next 9 weeks. Side note, I would if you were doing a lot of other people's work that they were profiting off of. Now that you are not going back, their heads may be spinning. There's also perks with the job, and because it's a bigger company, I won't have to do the work of multiple people anymore. Turns out, I'm doing about half of the work my cousin was meant to be doing. I still need to have a couple days of work, just to fully transition everything over to running without me and hand in my notice. But I'm able to do it online, and I laid a solid foundation before I went on leave, so it should just be more about saying goodbye than anything. Well, true colors have just emerged. Wow. More money, and if you get back to your original level, you will be paid even more. Your cousin took advantage. And if people still harp about family, ask them why it was okay for your cousin to underpay you for years. I bet they won't have anything to say as a result. They've already said that because it's a small business. It was completely reasonable for my cousin to expect more work for less money, particularly from a family member, as family helps each other. That makes 0 sense. So the family helps each other only goes one way, with you always helping your cousin, being used and underpaid? But when you need help, forget the family helps each other completely. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for pulling out of babysitting my niece and nephew without much notice when circumstances changed? I, 28 female, watch my niece 5 and nephew 3 for my sister and brother-in-law. They pay me a little, but I mostly do it because I enjoy it and the relationship has been good. Until we found out my brother-in-law has a 6 and 5-year-old with a woman he cheated on my sister with. The story's messed up. My sister was expecting their first child when she was diagnosed with a fatal abnormality. While they were going through this, while my sister was agonizing over what she would do, he was turning to someone else for comfort. In his own words, they chose to terminate for medical reasons. And for another year, the affair was ongoing. 2 kids are the result. My sister found out in January. Brother-in-law knew about the kids and had interacted with them before. Decided to keep it from her, but then told her because he wanted to make it work with them being a family. My sister is... I'm not sure what she's doing, but she has admitted she doesn't think she can forgive them. Yet she worries about bringing her kids up in a split household. She also knows she can't look at his kids without thinking about their oldest daughter. Wonders why they got to be here but not her. How could she ever want them around when they're the product of a horrible choice during the worst time of their lives? But they're stuck in limbo and is trying to show her that they can be a family. And he started bringing the kids into their home and has asked me to babysit them on the occasions they're with them. I said no, that I didn't feel it was a good idea. He has since added pressure to me, tried putting me in a position where I need to take his other kids. So I decided it needed to stop. I had to pull out of babysitting niece and nephew. My sister understood. She decided to take time from work and be with her kids. But brother-in-law thinks I should have given a couple of months before stopping. He thinks overall I should have been willing to babysit all 4 kids. He told me I'm not helping, and I'll feel horrible when they're over this awful part. Part of me wonders if he's right. Not about watching his kids, but about giving it more time. At least so my sister could have maybe work things out a bit more because she's in a tough spot with her job due to her decision. I don't know. This whole thing is a mess. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Gosh, I feel for your sister in this situation. What irks me is brother-in-law saying that bit about when we're over this awful part. I could be misjudging him, but I read between the lines as when I manipulate your sister into my way of thinking. Like he will make your sister feel guilty because the children aren't at fault. That doesn't matter though. Your sister doesn't have to welcome them with open arms at all. So now he's decided he wants to play happy families with 2 sets of kids. Your sister's supposed to just accept that? Bring the products of his affair into their marital home with their own kids? That's so twisted of him. He sounds very manipulative and gaslighty. I hope your sister finds a way through this, or even out of this if she so decides, which I wouldn't blame her at all. This needs to be higher. I can't see how his motives for bringing the kids from the affair could be anything other than an attempt to manipulate his wife. Also, OP, you are so not the a-hole. This is a whole mess of a situation for you and especially for your sister and her kids. I'm so sorry you're caught up in it. Wow, let's ignore like 90% of that. Because even without all the hot mess, you're not the a-hole for not doubling the number of children you're babysitting. No notice necessary on your part. He's the one who changed the situation. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but this post pissed me the hell off. I would never let my sister get back with someone that cheated on her. She's willing to sacrifice her only life just so the kids won't be raised in a broken home. But the kids don't care. They just want to see happy mom and dad. Co-parenting is not hard. They both can still do activities as a family, then go back home. I don't understand why people just give up on their life for the kids. Now she has to live with a cheater that had a whole family behind her back. I hope she finds someone who truly loves and respects her. I think for her, it's that she's already lost so much. She lost her first baby, her baby girl, and her world fell apart so hard. For her, divorcing means not seeing the kids she does have the whole time. It means accepting if they get a stepmom down the road. It means having to admit things fell apart even more. And I think right now she just can't face that. We've asked her if she can really imagine herself being happy with him again, but she said she doesn't know if she can be happy at all. So at least the kids having mom and dad together would be good, at least to her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my co-worker out of my wife's baby shower? I, 29 male, work in a pretty tight workspace. We have about 9 of us in my department, and it's a pretty even split between men and women. There's one co-worker, Eva, 20 female, who started working here a few months back. She's really good at her job and seems to get along with everyone. We get along well as we work on projects together and are usually in the group of people that are last to leave most days. I learned some weeks ago that she was calling herself my work wife. I knew what the term meant. The sentiment wasn't shared and I've expressed as much. I don't think I've been rude about it. I just let her know that I'd prefer for her to keep things a bit more professional. There's no real harm in the term, but for someone who doesn't understand a joke, it just looks and sounds wrong. I'm also a happily married man, and my coworkers, including Eva, know this. I thought I had done a pretty good job nipping things in the bud after our conversation. I no longer heard the jokes from her, so I didn't think it would be an issue to invite her to my wife's baby shower. My coworkers are all vaccinated. Our job helped us get them, and my wife worked from home, so there wasn't much concern for the sickness that shall not be named. Eva comes in and immediately starts back up with the jokes. "You're Opie's home wife? Nice to meet you. It's so nice to see he takes care of my hubby when I send him home." My wife is a very sweet and patient woman, so she just laughed it off, albeit uncomfortably, and moved on. However, the jokes got worse and wouldn't let up. At one point, Eva was telling people she would be our baby's second mom. My wife's friends and family were annoyed, and my wife looked very uncomfortable. I had pretty much had it by then, and took her aside and told her that the jokes weren't funny, and that she could either apologize to my wife right now for being so inconsiderate and gross, or she could just leave. She chose to leave. Word got around to our co-workers what happened, and while they agreed that she was acting inappropriately, that I should have let her down a little easier, as it was obvious she likes UOP. Am I really the a-hole for kicking her out? Not the a-hole. Send HR an email about this behavior to get it on the record. This. OP, do not take chances here. Get to HR first thing in the morning and tell them everything, starting with the previous jokes and you having asked her not to say that. Not the a-hole. I don't think work wife is cute, especially in that situation. Your wife was probably mortified, but I'm sure it helped that you handled the situation and stood up for her. She must be very patient and sweet, because I'm not sure I would have been able to keep my mouth shut. You have addressed this with Eva before. I'd borderline say it's harassment at this point. It's not cute, it's not funny, and Eva needs to be a mature adult and act like a professional. Completely inappropriate, but especially at you and your actual wife's baby shower. There's nothing borderline about this harassment. I am an HR professional, and this 100% merits a report to the company. In case OP is hesitant to come forward for fear of costing her a job over nothing, it's not and don't be. I expect she would get an official warning and file, as is unlikely to result in her immediate termination, unless there are other documented issues or she's in a very strict probationary period. Not the a-hole. You already asked her to stop once before. Forcing the work wife thing outside of work is creepy and super unprofessional. She chose to leave, rather than stop like you ask. How dare she say such things in front of your wife at her baby shower? Gross.